welcome to a new year. Happy New Year, 2026. So let's get everybody started off strong. We got all kinds of cool stuff that we can chat about here. So start dropping your questions into the comments. We'll keep an eye on them. Yeah, hello, everyone. Good to see some familiar faces. So today is the first AMA of the new year. Cheers. A little bit of my tea here. And there's a lot that is going to be coming up inside of UEFN as well as Unreal Engine over the next year or so. We have all kinds of things to talk about. The last video that I guess it was kind of a what was it? It wasn't an Ask Us Anything, but that Epic just put out. They were talking about bringing a bunch of stability to the engine, which is awesome. So that tells me a lot of really interesting things in the background as an Unreal authorized instructor, knowing what's going on with UEFN and Unreal Engine, and as they're merging in the future. So if they're working on stability, my guess, total guess here, is that there's something going on where they're merging a little bit more and more in the background, like whether they're bringing verse into Unreal Engine. So everything that we've been talking about and working here inside of UEFN is going into Unreal, but now that they're working on stability and quality of life, like that's huge. Like that's really, really big. So hello, everyone. I have a couple of things we're going to talk about for sure. Because we've got, yes, thank you. We've got some people that have asked questions on Twitter. If you've got questions that are on there, I will bring them over. I do want to chat about those. I was playing with those things yesterday. And we know that also the in-game transactions are coming up. They're not quite in yet, so I don't want to talk about them too much. So if you do have questions, let us know what you're interested in on those ones, because I do think it's going to be very interesting, because that is really the groundwork for what's going into Unreal 6, which opens up a lot of really interesting stuff for AAA games. So I think that's really cool. Lastly, I also want to shout out to a lot of my teachers that are watching this as well. Please keep sending me stuff from your students. We love seeing what you're doing with the curriculum that we've been building. If you are a teacher and you want to know more about UEFN, please contact us. If you want to know more about the Unreal Engine, please contact us. Twinmotion, please contact us. Actually, even Minecraft as well. Come talk to us. We have curriculum that we're building specifically for you in your classroom. There's a whole bunch of it. Something I want to point out too is that we also have a UEFN school that is free. So I'm going to bring this up here like so. This is totally free. It was granted an Epic Mega Grant, which is fantastic. It gives us a chance to get this started and get it out there. It's what brings these AMAs to life for you as well. I promise you, we're going to get to the good stuff. Some of the things I want to point out in here, though, if you have a full-on class that you're working with in your school and you want to learn how to actually get something like an escape room for your students to build, maybe a free-for-all map, if that's available inside of your school. We also have some stuff for, let's go into the courses up here at the top, right up here. We also have a whole host of things in here as well. There is a rocket racing. So if you have students that like to do racing games, I love racing games. This was a blast to work on. We have this one as well. All of our past live streams are here. We had a bunch of wonderful guests last year, and I plan on having more of them this year too. Speaking of guests that are here, if you come up here to the very top, you can see myself as well as Maestro Shark, an amazing verse programmer, does a lot of UI stuff and an amazing person to work with. So if you have interest in learning from him directly, please contact us. We can actually hook you up with private classes. He does teach stuff as well online. He has a whole YouTube channel. Speaking of YouTube channels, we have an entire list of curated stuff that's been coming out from UEFN, about UEFN for years. So if you find a tutorial that you feel like is really, really nice that needs to be put inside of here, let us know. We would gladly add it to this to make sure that that education is actually out there as easily for people to access as possible. This website is completely and totally free to jump onto as a member. It's all there. We've got a bunch of stuff for verse in here. We actually run verse classes as well. So if you're interested in learning verse one-on-one with myself and or with Maestro, we can absolutely hook those things up, right? Those ones would not be free. Those ones would be paid for our time because it will be live. But if you're looking for something that you just want to dip your toes in, or you know somebody that's looking in it, we have a bunch of stuff there. And of course, there's a bunch of stuff in here for tutorials that have got it, things for lighting. Maybe you're doing some modeling. We have an entire thing in here on collision. This is going to be huge coming up with Scene Graph. You're going to need to understand how collision works. So be ready for that. So enough about the school. It's free. Jump in, hang out with the community. We've got over like 2,000. I think we're up to 2,500, maybe even 3,000 students now. It's been a minute since I've looked at that number. It just continues to grow every day. So this is all available for you. Can I add a link for that? Yes, absolutely. I can grab that. Here's the courses link. I'll drop it in the chat for you all. There you go. So good to see you too. Thank you for joining. I know what time it is where you are, so I appreciate you joining in on this. Okay, here we go. Let's actually start looking at this. The main thing that I want to chat about are a couple of questions that we got on X. So let me read these ones out and go find the top of this thread, because this is where it all started out. I have a question. Hopefully it's very simple. Maybe, maybe not. Some of the items inside of Fortnite change colors as you move them. This is a feature, not a bug, by the way. So beware of that. Let's bring me back up there. Hello again, right? So this is the thing. This is actually a really cool feature and I appreciate it, but when you don't want it, it becomes problematic. So what is actually going on here? So these specific pieces, I'm going to go ahead and bring up this and get this out of the way for a moment. And inside of here, we have a shipping container. And when we add the shipping container to the world, I have 3 of them here. There's 3 variants of this. And you move said shipping container around, and I'll do this slowly so you can see it. You'll notice that it will actually change color. It'll change hue, however you want to say that, right? And this is really obnoxious if you're like, oh, cool, I want that purple one. That's exactly what I want. Or like, I want this blue one, or I want this orange one. So this one as well, I'll hit Control B so you can see that this is actually this one. In fact, I will go ahead and grab this out and drag it out there. And you can see that it changes color. And you're like, well, that's not what I want. I want the blue. I want the red, right? But this one doesn't change color. Whoops. I just stuck it in the ground. There we go. You'll notice that this one doesn't change color when I move it. And it literally is this one. So you're probably asking, how did you do that? What kind of magic did you actually pull off? Well, this is the magician showing off the cool things that actually happened. So the way that this material works is that it's actually looking at the world position where this object is in space within the game engine space, the world, right? And if it moves, it says, okay, I'm going to take that value, that XYZ value, and I'm going to translate that into the hue saturation. It's actually changing. It's probably just hue, probably not saturation, right? But this one doesn't do that. And you're like, well, why? Why isn't it doing that? So here's the trick. And I actually tested this. I'm going to move this down here because I want to be able to launch a session as well. I tested this to make sure this would actually go through and it doesn't break anything. It's a nifty little trick. You can't do it with scene graph because this is a Fortnite asset. However, we can do it with blueprints. I know some of you are thinking, wait, I thought blueprints were taken out of UEFN, and you would be kind of right. The blueprint scripting system is no longer in there. It got stripped out of it. It was never in there. I should just clarify that. And we're going to be working with Verse instead. So with a blueprint, this is how we deal with this. You'll notice I've got a little tiny thing way over here. Right here, I'll zoom in on this so you can see it, right? So this thing right here, this blueprint right here has this container inside of it. And this is not moving. But this over here is. Okay, maybe you can kind of see where we're going with this, right? So let me zoom out. If I go ahead and grab this and move it around, nothing changes. Let's go look in the outliner. And you'll so in the outliner, I'll zoom in on this so you can see it here. You'll see that we have this actor. This is a blueprint actor. And then it's parented, sorry, the shipping container is parented to that blueprint actor, and the actor doesn't move. So what I'm guessing is going on, because I don't know for sure, is that this actor is actually controlling this thing's world space, which is being translated down into the material. So this can move around once you figure out its color and you like it. If you grab that actor, right, and I move the actor, that blueprint actor, you notice that it actually changes color. So to answer your question, how do you get it to stay the same color, right? Figure out where you want it, right? Within this parented child relationship, you know, what color you want, right? Then you can go and grab the child and move the child around and it won't actually change color, where these ones do change color, that one and then this one as well, like so. So hopefully that answers that question. And it doesn't even, we don't even have to go into the materials to play with any of that stuff too, right? So if we go into the game, right, we can see that that does actually stay that blue color. And even if I were to, because I know there's a lot of designers that still do this, right? So if I come in here and I actually grab this one, right, and if I move it, you'll notice that changed color because I copied, right? Like this one will move, right? And that one, right? That one changes color. If we right click it and move it, it stays the same color, right? Because I'm actually cutting it from that location and moving it over here. But if I use left mouse to move these, that's what was actually causing that change in color. So that's something worth knowing, right? So if you're going to be working inside of the engine and working inside of Fortnite, there might be a couple of little tricks that you need to go along with it. And now all these pieces are all over the place. That's amazing. I don't want that there. And this one, That one is in there. Okay, cool. So then this guy, I can get rid of you and get rid of you as well. You are very welcome. Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's a little tricky trick. Oh, and looking at who's in the chat, I'm not going to drop names right now because it's not fair. But the people that are in the chat, I know someone was talking about doing a verse class. I am so interested in like seeing how you execute that. I'm really, really curious. So I know I mentioned that via some of our socials. So hit me up when that starts to go or when it becomes available, because I would love seeing how other people explain this stuff, because I'm an artist. Like I grew up as an artist, so I want to see how else y'all are doing these things, which is super cool. And for my teacher friends that are here as well, if you want to learn more about this stuff, again, come and hang out, come check all these things out. Okay, the other question that kind of got dropped into that specific thread where we're talking about textures is world-aligned texture. So a world-aligned texture, let me explain what this is. And this is exactly what I want. Let's move this over here so we're focused on it, or don't fight me, that's fine. Okay, so world-aligned texture. If I scale this sucker up, right, you'll notice, and it might be a little glitchy on screen, but what's happening here is you can see that that texture doesn't move, right? The texture is in one place. Right, I'll move it slowly so y'all can see this, right? So no matter where this object is in space, it's always going to have this texture on it. It looks decent. It's not terrible, right? You can see it's on the handles as well, right? Right, it's not terrible. And if I scale the object, move the object, we always have this set up. Now I went through and actually created a material, and I know there's a bunch of tutorials on this too. So you can look for world-aligned textures when you're searching for this stuff, right? So let's go into here. Let's go into my materials. So we have our world-aligned texture. I'm going to go and open this up so y'all can see how I built this one. There are a couple of different ways to do this depending on how you want it to behave. I just wanted this texture to be on this object, right? And no matter where I moved it, that texture would be the same. Now, what's interesting about this too is that the texture that's coming through this, and I used Fortnite textures, right? So we're just using this one. You can see what this one is, right? This is just the first three. I just grabbed these first three. So that one goes there. This one's actually way down off screen, sorry. And then here's our normal, sorry, our spec that's going through here, right? So normal was down below. And that's just the textures that I'm using. It's all inside of UEFN. And I'm using this one right here. So we have our world-aligned textures complex. Now, yes, this is complex, and there's a lot of pieces that go into it. But if you don't need them, then don't plug anything into them. You'll be fine. So how do you get one of these? First off, so I'm going to zoom out. I'm just going to go over here in an area, right click, and if you look for world aligned, you can find our one right here. So I can zoom in on that. Oh, should have done that one first. World aligned textures complex. That is the one that we're looking for. You can see it's under the miscellaneous. Right? As of this recording, it's really easy to get at. Hopefully it doesn't disappear on us. So there's that. Boop, and then we have this one. So really the only pieces that we need for the example that I'm doing here, right? We need a diffuse, whoops. We need a diffuse up here, right? We also need the spec, so diffuse spec, and then there's the normal down here below, and then the texture size. And we'll talk about this texture size last. Hello, welcome. Good to have you here, right? So this texture size, we're gonna have to do something kind of nifty to it. And each one of these diffuse, spec, and normal, we have to do something nifty to it with it. And if, I'm going to talk about each one of them in turn, actually, as opposed to just trying to do that. So let's look at each of this. The first thing that we have to worry about is we have a texture object. Okay, so if I just hold down the T key as in Tango and left mouse click, we get a texture sample. Texture samples, if I click and drag this in here, they will not fit. You can see down there, hopefully, I know if you're looking on mobile, this is going to be tiny. It says float 3 is not compatible with a texture 2D. So we can't use these texture samples. So we have to use a texture object. And this does cause one issue, which I will talk about in a minute. So a texture object, you can see that this is the texture that's in there, right? And you can see that's literally what's going on. It's showing up on there, plus all the other information from our specular and our normal as well. So texture object. So right click and say texture object. And here we have our texture object. Hold on, let's do this. There we go. So texture object, either here or here, either one will work, either functions or under texture. So there's that. So now we have that, we can plug that in, no problem. Now, here's the issue that comes with this. So our spec, and I will zoom in on this, so you can hopefully see this a little bit better. The spec texture is an unpacked red channel, green channel, and blue channel with the metallic and the roughness and the specular in them in opposite order, right? I'm going to place a prefab in a building extremely dark. A recent update. Yes, I will show you how to fix that. It's a small issue. Yes, I will absolutely answer that one. Good question. Right. So because this has got packed information in it, and somebody's like, well, what is packed information? Like, I don't know what that means. Like, I'm new to this, right? Let's take a look. So I'm going to select this object, and then over here, I'm just going to double click the icon, right? And this will open up the texture editor. And inside of here, I'm going to turn off B and G. So we have R. So this is the red information. This is the green information. You see it's totally black. And then the blue information, right? So each one of these is a specific type of information. So these are usually OER, if I remember, oh my goodness, occlusion, ORM, occlusion and roughness and metallic. Not always, but sometimes most of Epic stuff is set up like that. So the occlusion and roughness and metallic. Now this is also, if we look at this one, right? This got an S at the end of it. So we know that this one is specular. Right, so that's why I've got a specular in here. So that's why I like the ORM is not always accurate. So you got to look these things up, and depending on who is building these textures, you may have different information. And the reason I bring this up, and this is specifically to the question, if you're getting it from the Fab library, like you're buying it off Fab, or you're buying it offline somewhere, or you're downloading it somewhere from like Texture Haven, awesome site by the way. You're gonna want to make sure that you understand which channel is what, right? So I know that this one's specular, so that I can tap it into my specular and not have a problem. You can also split these out in something like Photoshop. You can split them out here in the material editor. If anybody remembers how to do that, please let me know. I was digging for that yesterday. I couldn't figure it out. So I'm going to drag the specular information and tap it into there. This should work fine for specular information. All right. So there's that. And the last one we have down here is just the normal map. I'm just going to attach it to the normal map. Now, before we talk about UVs, let's look at the other side of this. So we have our XYZ texture. That is going to go into our base, right? And our XYZ for spec, that one's going to go into spec. And then their normal map is going to go into the normal, right? So we have our input over here, and then it's channeled through a bunch of information here, and then it pops out of the other side. If you ever want to see what's inside of here, go into Unreal Engine, open it up inside of there. You can actually double click on it. You'll notice here in UEFN down here, I can't actually open this up. You can open it up inside of Unreal Engine so you can see what's inside of there. A lot of really cool stuff. If you're really interested in materials, I highly suggest you do this. Go look and see how Epic is building these things because it's amazing. Right? So this world-aligned textures will take this information. I promise you we're coming back to the texture size, right? And then it'll smash it into the world. And now I have this, right? So now no matter where I put this, it works well. And the bonus is I don't have to worry about UVs. Okay, so if you're working with UVs and you hate them, you can use world-aligned textures in many cases, so you never have to make UVs, right? So it doesn't matter where this is at. Now, the problem with this, if I go and rotate this, so let's rotate this, right? You'll notice that because it's world-aligned, it's not aligned to the object, right? UVs fix that. So if I rotate this object, those the boards on that texture will actually rotate. Okay, so there's that. So let's talk about that last node, right? So this is our texture size. So what this section needs is a vector 3. So it needs 3 pieces of value. So though it says, and I'll zoom in on this here a little bit. So though it says R, G, and B, we're technically using them as X, Y, and Z. Now their default value is set at 64. That's why I have this one set at 64 over here as well. Okay, just so that we have the default values going into it. Like if I disconnect this, it's going to look exactly the same, right? So we're taking our RGB values, but to get these RGB values, we're taking one single thing and we're piping it in to a node that's going to make it 3 different things, X, Y, and Z, and then piping it into here. That's what this append many is doing. It's essentially making our X, Y, and Z for our texture size. So how big should this thing be on X, Y, and Z? So I've just got one value that goes into it. You can break this up should you wish. It's very easy. If you press and hold the 1 key on the keyboard and left mouse click, you get another one of these, right? So if I wanted it to be different along one axis specifically, like I want this to be, I don't know, 10, right? Actually, let's do like 100. Right. So you can see along one axis, the forward axis, right, going this direction. This is Z, this is forward in UEFN / Unreal Engine, right? So it's going up and down, right? So that's that. Now, if I connect this one back in there, you can see that that actually changes. So you can pipe different ones in there should you need them. So to quit, the mask node doesn't, I tried that actually to answer your question. So the question is, I hope I heard the question right. To split the texture, you need to use a mask node. I tried doing that. The component mask, right? So this one right here, right? The component mask. I tried that and it didn't want to play nice. Let's hear mask, just to show you here, right? So the concept is that you could come through here and split this one and be like, oh, I just want, one of these, but the 2D texture node won't go into the component mask. So no, you can't use it. That's why I was like, if anybody knows how to do this to split the texture object across, you can do that. What I would do is just take this texture into something like an image editor, like Photoshop, and split those red, green, and blue so that I've got 3 separate textures. Or in this case, there's only 2 because there's nothing inside of the green channel. It's just black. So you just need, your specular, and then I'm pretty sure this one is probably roughness. I'm going to guess. I don't know how they built that specifically. So unfortunately, this component mask doesn't work. Sorry. Womp womp. It does work with these though. Like you can pipe these through here, but you don't need to because they're already split. Whoops, they're already split right here. So yeah, let us know. I would love to know how that works. I'm super curious. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about on this texture is this thing. I've turned it into a parameter. Okay, so if you're looking to turn these into a parameter, you can take this node. This is the same node. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to say convert to parameter. Right, so I'll zoom in on this so you can see it, right? So if you convert this to a parameter, it'll give you this. Now here's the magic of this. This is accessible inside of a material instance. What's a material instance? Well, let's go back over to the engine, and over here, if I grab this one, right? So this is the material. So it's M world align. This is my material. MI is material instance. So this is world align. So if I open up this, it'll look very different, but you'll see that this texture size is accessible, right? This texture size is this node right here. This node is exposed over here. And what does this allow us to do? No, I don't need to save that. That's fine, right? Well, let's set this over here on the side. And let's say, for example, we want a really big refrigerator. Like this is huge. This is ridiculously huge. And these little wooden slats on the side of it are way too small now. You're like, oh, well, this needs to be bigger. Well, we can change this. Let's move this over here, right? So you can see this. So if I change this texture size value to something like 100, why aren't you updating? Oh, does this even have the right material on it? Ooh. Oh, it has the material, not the material instance. Well, let's fix that problem. Let's grab that material instance and drag it onto there. There we go. So now as we change this, say 250, right? You can see that these slats are now larger because that texture size is being adjusted. So you can either do it in the material. However, if you've got an artist that's going to be working on the fly and they don't understand the materials and they just want to make things look pretty, you can just give them these material instances and they can change things on the fly, which makes it really, really nice, right? So material instances are fantastic. Use them a lot. Use them a lot. They're wonderful, right? So now let's say if I shrink this thing down and I'm like, okay, well now I have to adjust that. So we set this back to its default, which was 64, which is not terrible. Like that works, right? So that works. Save all that. So does that help answer your question? I want to make sure. Making all the awesome happen here. And keep dropping in more questions. I promise you I'm getting to those other ones. We're only half an hour. We're not even a half an hour in this. We got plenty of time. Okay. So after playing with this, I had some questions, right? So let's go back over to our spawn pads because we have this one. Now this is kind of cool because if I change the size, you will notice that it will actually change how often it's tiling the texture across there, right? I don't have to do anything. It just does it automatically. Thank you. It opens up a lot. Yeah, for the textures. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Fortnite textures are great. There's a bunch of them in there that work fantastic. Like use them. They're there, right? It's like the prefabs. Like they're there. Use them. They're fantastic. So this material, and I'm just going to show it just because I want to get to some of these other questions as well. So if I grab this, let's go ahead and with this selected, we can just click over here, double click on it rather, and we can open up this one. So the way that this one works, I'll get a little closer here so you can see, right? So we're piping a texture into the base, right? So that's awesome. But what's going on over here? Like, what is all of this? Well, we have a node. We actually have a couple of them. This is the object scale one. If we actually look up object scale, this is how we get this. So there's object scale. We can also, if we do object, we've got object radius. This would kind of do the same thing. But the one I'm specifically looking for is way down here. Sorry, it's like almost off. Let me zoom in here. Object, and then come way down here. We have our, where did it go? Object bounds. So this one right here, our object local bounds. There we go. Object local bounds. That's the one I'm looking for. Get rid of you, right? So these are similar. I used an object scale because it just worked for what I needed, but you can use this one as well. It has a different node setup. So if you're looking at this up online, you can totally check it out. So we're going to get the object scale. That is this object. It's actually looking at the object that it's attached to, which is super cool, right? And we're going to get its X and its Z scale. I'm getting our Y and our Z scale, right? So our left and our forward, if I remember correctly. Up and forward, sorry. I had to look at the little thing down here. So up and forward, right? So we're getting that, and then we're going to go ahead and multiply it by the UV coordinates. Now, this is why I use this object scale, because I need two values, X and Y, or U and V, right? Because we're using UVs. We're going to multiply those together, right? So now the object scale is driving the actual UVs. Sorry, that's just off screen, right? So the object scale is being multiplied by the UVs, right? That's how that's going on there. And then this right here is how often these slats are going to be multiplied, how many we're going to get across there. So if I change this value to something like 10, right, and we say apply, now we're getting more of them, right? So if I change this to something like 2, then we get less of them. But no matter what size this thing is, in real time, it's actually going to update how often that texture is tiled across the surface of the object, right? So I don't have to do that. So my artist doesn't have to worry about the math that's going on. They're like, oh, I need a bigger rock, right? The refrigerator is not a great example, but if I had like a, here, let's do a good example here. Let's do, like, say we had floorboards for a house. Let's grab a shape. Let's grab a plane. Set this over here, right? Ooh, flicker. Everybody loves flicker, right? And we want to take this, grab you. I'm going to copy that. To copy this, I'm just holding down shift and right mouse clicking. So I'm copying this element, right? And then if we come over here and then left mouse click, shift, left mouse click, we can paste it in there, right? So say I have a floor, right? Like the bigger this floor gets, they kind of stay proportional, which is great, right? And then of course I can come in here and change this on the fly in the material, then make sure that I apply it. Now, if it was a material instance, that would make it a little bit faster, but right. So now it works a little bit. Now we're getting some stretching, right? Because it's only getting, right? I'm only getting, I'm not getting all the side to side values, right? Because I'm getting the up as well. So if we change this to there, right? So there we go. And that works a little bit better. Really? You're going to fight me today? Nothing like a demo that doesn't go quite perfect, but this will allow you to do that. The object local bounds I've found sometimes works a little bit better. So there we go. Question. I recently published an island. I was expecting to show up in the new and updated session, but it never showed up. What's the trick for getting your game to show up in the new section? That's a really good question. What I would do, and I'm coming back to the other question, I promise you. What I would do is get a bunch of people to sit down and play it. I think, and I don't know for sure because I don't know how Epic handles this, but the new and updated, it also runs with, how many plays it's getting as well. So I know that that's part of the Discover algorithm that's going on in there. But I honestly don't have an answer to that one. That would be a better question for the gentle peeps that actually run the questions once a month, the Let's Chat that Epic does. That would be a better way to go over there. So apologize. If anybody does have an answer that's watching this either now or in the future, let us know. I'd love to know some more about that one. Okay, so those are those ones. All right. Hopefully that answers those questions. All right, the other thing, where's that other question? It was up here earlier. I placed a prefab in a building and inside extremely dark in the recent update. How do I fix that? Okay, let's go grab a prefab. Anybody got a favorite? Anybody? Where's my prefabs? Did I mark it? I did not. Prefabs, there you are. Eeny, meeny, miny. Let's go. We want one that's actually got an inside. Flush Factory. I guess I almost made a new folder for this just because it's such a habit to do that, right? All right, so here is our Flush Factory. Now, if we go inside of here, right, mine is nice and bright. Why is mine nice and bright? Well, it's because I changed something inside the editor, right? It looks fine inside of the engine, but it looks fine in game, but it always looks dark in here. So I'm going to come up into Window. I'm going to come down here to World Settings. Okay, so Window and then World Settings. I'll zoom in on this so that you definitely can see this. So Window, World Settings, right? This is where I'm going. Zoom back out. Now we have our world settings over here on the right. I'm actually going to dock this up here like this. And in here, the world time manager, right? Is it this one? I set it and I walked away from it. I feel like it was this one here. So if we set it to chapter 5, chapter 4 looks good. Chapter 5 is not going to be dark. I wonder if it's because this has got windows up above. This might have been a bad choice. Let's find a different one. There we go. I know this has got some dark corners in it. All right, so chapter 5. This is what I ended up changing in here to get this, and I set it to chapter 4. I think it got updated recently, and this is what I was messing with. I know that there was a thread about this on the forums, and this is one of the ways that we were able to fix this. So hopefully this helps to kind of set that up. This is the way that I was doing it. Hopefully that helps you all out. Yes, because that should be a quick fix. The other way to get around this, it's not beautiful, but it works, is to come up here where it says lit and just use unlit, right? So come down here and actually use this unlit, and you'll be able to see inside of anything that's like super dark, 100%, right? It's not happy, like it looks terrible because there's no lighting going on, but that's what's going on. You can actually set this one up here. So 2 options: change your world time manager over here, right? Because it's not under playset settings. Yeah, okay. Ooh, there's a bunch of stuff in here. Good times. I really want this to be like something that we can play with. I got a feeling this is going to pop up in Unreal 6 unless it got deprecated. So that should be there. Also, here's another question. Also, I submitted for Epic Picks and was rejected immediately. I have a good game. Are they looking for something specific? I wish Duos with Dads was here. He has a great way of explaining what's going on. I'll see if I can channel him and all of his knowledge, right? So when it comes to Epic Picks, I think, okay, and again, this is an I think thing, so don't take me for word on here, is that they were looking for ways that the technology is being used in a specific and unique way. So when you submit, I would also submit a video talking about how it was built, why you did it that way, and what your players are expecting to get because you're using the tech in a new way. Okay. So for example, if you have something like and this is for my teachers actually. So if you have something, let me back up because I'm going to just do a quick demo, right? If we let's go into our devices and do conversation, right? So conversation device, right? So our conversation device requires a conversation bank, and inside that bank, we can have our NPCs do a bunch of really cool stuff. For my teachers, what a unique way to do or to use this would to be using it as a way to have your students actually taking what they're learning and putting it inside the NPC so that the player can have a conversation with them. Now, why is this unique? Is that the user, the student, is actually taking what they're learning from whatever lesson that it is, let's say ancient Egypt, right? And they're taking that information, distilling it down into bite-sized chunks that they have, that you can tell their comprehension that's going on there, and they can use that to teach someone else afterwards, right? So it's not just that you're making a cool game, right? Like Silksong is a cool game. I've been playing it. It's incredibly difficult though, and not everybody's going to enjoy it. Another really good example of this is like something like Enshrouded. Enshrouded is an amazing game, right? And they're using the voxel technology in a way that's a little bit different from a lot of other games. Like yes, you can build and you can destroy and you can dig and everything too. But they've opened it up for the player to use, and you can add like destruction to it, and you can remove that destruction in real time. The water interacts with it too. So Epic Picks isn't just about a cool game, right? It's kind of about how the technology inside of UEFN, I almost said Unreal Engine, UEFN is being used so that it's benefiting the community too. Now, I could be totally wrong, right? So you definitely want to chat with them specifically. So hopefully that does help though. Hey, oh, long time no see, mate. Right. Okay, I'm coming back on the questions. I haven't. Hey, Ian. Hi. I have a friend who's pretty new to UEFN and wants to learn materials. Yeah. What's the best way to get them started? Either A, jump onto our website. So here's another quick plug, right? We can talk about that. It's totally free. They can jump in and actually check that stuff out. I will show you specifically. Let me grab this one. The class that I would suggest that they check out. My first answer is get in and see what you can break. Always get in and just see what you can break. Like that's just how we do, right? So if we go into courses, come down there into materials. Where are you? I'll do it this way. I have so many. Okay, UEFN materials. So in here, we have a couple of them, and you can get these on YouTube as well. So these first two. So I will zoom in on these, right? So creating a simple material and material instance, and creating a simple material with textures. I would suggest this one first and this one second. Right? Hey, look at that, world aligned. Right. So we've got a whole video that talks about that. These two are ones that we had built a long time ago because they're very fundamental for what it takes to understand what a material does and why it's behaving that way. They're a little longer than most of the videos that I do because I wanted to pack in a bunch of stuff. I taught at university for many, many years, and these two concepts, these main concepts that come in these two specific videos, if there was anything that I wanted my students to get was these. I'm like, if you have these, then you're going to be great on it, right? There's some other ones in here as well, like what is an alpha channel and why does it work? If you're going into the decal device, but also some of the materials that go along with it. And then UI stuff down here too. These ones are a little bit old as well. They're not nearly as old as these ones up here at the top, but these ones have a lot of really good understanding of what is inside of a specific texture. Like if you're looking to split out different parts of it, so the red, the green, the blue channels, and how to address that, as well as what's going on inside of something like Photoshop and image editor, so that when you make your textures, how those textures are going to behave when you're inside the engine. Okay, these were done, if I remember correctly, it might actually been done in Unreal Engine. It's the same tech, so it wouldn't really matter. But that is where I would absolutely have somebody start. Materials 101. There it is right there. Like, let's actually here, copy that, putting that right in the chat. Boom, there it is. Right. This is where I would have you go and have them go 100%. I would love to teach a full-on materials class. That would be super cool. There are a bunch of videos that are out there that are super helpful, but this is definitely a nice like one-stop shop for a bunch of really interesting stuff. There's even like how to set up a material inside of Fortnite so that when a player hits it, they bounce and wiggle, right? Get that extra little dopamine going when you're playing your game, right? So this is where I would go 100%. The long and the short of it. Morning. How are you, my friend? Good to see you. Glad you're here. I was just chatting about you, letting everybody know that you are the master when it comes to doing verse and UI stuff. Cool. Very welcome. Will you be adding new courses about the new scene graph features? Yeah, I would love to. If there's one specific that you want to play with, let me know. The last couple of them that I had done. Oh, where did that just disappear to? Hold on a second. Boop. So let's go back into courses here. Pretty sure it's under the verse stuff. So verse, there we go. Coding a quest with verse. Oh, I love this video. It was so much fun to do, but it was like a long time ago. Don't need to click on it. Sorry. Come back. Boop. Let's go back over here. We did add in, I do have more. So scene graph beta stuff, this is where we're at. Like some of these, and I want to be very clear that these are the versions that they're being done in, because some of the stuff changes and becomes outdated. Some of the pieces move around, so it may not be super accurate. So things like picking up entities, because the entity system that's inside of there now is super helpful. So we've gotten to that point. That's really nice. I was actually playing with attaching an object to a player, because a player is now an entity as well. Super cool. Love it. It actually reduces what we need as far as devices. For example, when we want to, don't need the conversation device in here anymore. If we grab so like the VFX creator device, you can attach these, sorry, the VFX power up device, my apologies. The VFX power device, you can attach these to players, right? But there's overhead that goes along with this. So what I mean is there's extra computation that actually happens, and you need a whole bunch of these. If you've got 50 players, you kind of have to have 50 of these power ups if you want all 50 of your players to have these, back blings and things on their heads and things. However, now that the player is an entity as of this recording, I think it's November is when it happened. This is in January. We now have an entity as a player, so we can attach another entity to the player, right? So you don't have to use these power-ups, and it saves you a ton of memory, making your game even smaller. So thinking about efficiency, like that's super cool. There are a couple of videos that are out there. I don't want to just duplicate somebody else's video. That's not fair. They're doing an amazing job with it. So I haven't created videos on it because they cover it cleanly. I do want to have one specific for our school that is more of what the school teaches. So yes, I do plan on having one of those, and there are plenty of other features out there that are going to have them. So let me know scene graph only, right? Like, yeah, exactly. Let us know specifically what you want for these verse and scene graph tutorials. It's going to be much easier for me to be like, that's what I want. That's what you want. Let's do one of those things, right? Yes, and also plus Niagara user parameters have been exposed in verse, which is amazing. Oh my gosh. I could live in Niagara and materials all day long. As an artist, I love playing with that stuff. It's just, it's so good on so many levels. So yes, we will absolutely be doing things like that. The other thing that I want to point out, let's see, did it actually, so we're still in here, but I still have to push stuff. Look at the giant refrigerator. Look at that. That's silly. Let's go and just push changes just in case I need to for whatever reasons. Save all of that. I'm going to close down my world settings too, as soon as I get a chance. If you want the leading or winning player and say FFF game, FFA, so a free-for-all game, to have some sort of VFX, could attach and swap between players if they change places in the current leading player. Is that doable? Yeah. So the question is, say you have a free-for-all game, and I'm actually going to do this over here, right? So here's I got an art degree, right? So player one, right? So player one is ahead, and let's do pink for the next one, right? And then player two is trailing them by 1 or 2 eliminations, right? So player one has got let's do this one, right? So they've got a crown or something that's over their head, right? And this person has got 10 eliminations, and this one's got 9. Then all of a sudden, this guy's got 10, and then this lady's got 12. We need this to transfer over to another player. And the answer is yes, because if you're keeping track of the number of eliminations in a player class, you should be able to do that. And for those of you that know verse, correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially, yes, you could totally do that. Have I ever coded that? No. That's usually a little bit beyond what I'm teaching in the classroom, because we're very much on the 101 area, 200 class. You could definitely do that for sure. Course, I should say 101 course, 201 courses when we build our stuff. What's awesome about that is, that it opens up possibilities for playing with the player classes and keeping track of what's inside of the game modes, which in UEFN is the play space. So yeah, totally that. I can see that converting a texture sample back to a texture object is a pain. Yeah. That's why I was like, where is that? Yes, you're very welcome for that. So yeah, it can be kind of tricky to do. There are a couple other nodes that we can use. Where are those materials at that kind of help with that? Let's go back into the world aligned. So there are like, this one is one big one. Well, let's do that in yellow. This one is one big node that kind of handles a lot, but we can also, oh, it's not going to show up that way. So to get the node that I'm looking for, I have to look up the material function call, and I actually am going to zoom in on this too. So if I type in the word call, right, we get this material function call. Now you have to do this sometimes inside of UEFN. Doesn't typically happen inside of Unreal Engine, but we can do this. So now we have this unspecified function node. So I'm going to zoom out, and over here on the right, I'll zoom in over here, right? If we look for three-way, oh, it doesn't exist in here? Oh, no. Boo. Okay, we can copy it directly out of Unreal Engine and drop it into here, and it'll work. So I'm going to kind of do that. I'm going to cheat. I don't know if y'all knew this. This is a cool little trick. If we go and actually copy, I'll just give you an example. You can actually grab like all of this and just hit copy, just like Control C. You can actually paste them around. So I have, over the years that I've been working with this, created a little deposit or repository of materials, because I'm always looking for ways to like make my life a whole lot easier. So if we go into, let's see if I've actually got a copy of this. Yeah, here we go. So this right here, three-way coordinate, right? So I'm going to copy all that. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to paste it. Three-way coordinate, right? So we can use this as well. And if I remember correctly, oh, you're not. It's still a texture object. Boo. Okay, that's too bad. I was thinking we could just take a regular texture as opposed to a texture object and actually slam them in there too, but I was wrong. But we can control each one of these, right? Which is great. So if I take, you know, I only want this, and then I can control how I want this to be specifically used. It's basically this right here is like a little brother of this thing. This thing is like on steroids. It's got some really cool stuff inside of it too, but we can do a lot of fun things with this. Actually, now that I see this, is there a single texture? No, it won't let me drop things in there either. Boo, that's too bad. Yeah, so if you get a material graph, you can copy them and save them. I have like 100 of them. Like I just have all these really cool textures and things saved because I don't want to have to rewrite them ever. Like I've got a light flicker, you know, like a material function for that. Like I want a light to flicker, but I want to use a material to do it. I don't want to do it with code. So yeah, super helpful. I migrated the whole starter content folder when I first joined UEFN. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what they're doing with the next starter content inside of Unreal Engine and bring it over. There was and I always get the guy's name wrong. I always say Varl VFX. He created his own little starter content for Unreal Engine, which is super cool. Yes, I am also on Twitch right now too. Yeah, so if for some of you that are not seeing some of the questions that are coming through, because you're on Twitch or YouTube, yeah, I'm on both of them right now at this moment. I want to make sure we're getting as many people as to do this. You can look us up. We're Cleverlike. That's where we're at, making those pieces in there. Right. Do I want to save that? Yeah, sure. Why not? We'll get rid of those pieces. All right, and then whoops, I want that. So yeah, here we are. We're in there. Any other questions for you all? Make sure I didn't miss anything. I'm actually going to jump over to see where this is at on YouTube. Sometimes there's questions on there that don't show up. I've got a feed for all of the questions in my little thing over here, but it doesn't always give us all of them. I've noticed some of them disappear. Cool. Looks like we've got most of them. Sweet. Excellent. Excellent news. Also, I am trying something new and actually using like a vertical for like Mobile. If it's looking terrible, please let me know. Yes, it is nice that somebody's doing streaming about UEFN. MacJack also does this. She's typically, I think if she's still doing it like every Tuesday, go check out MacJack. She does amazing stuff. We actually had her. It was great to have her on our show a little while ago. But she builds on there as well. I would love to sit around and like just build in UEFN and like show you what we're working on. But some of our stuff I can't. Maybe one of these days I'll do that. Let us know if that's something you all would be interested in like checking out. I think it'd be fun. Tips on folders. Say I had multiple maps made and I want each map in its own folder. So what I'm hearing, okay, so here's the deal with UEFN. With the maps, and I will open this up, and sorry, it's going to be kind of off screen here a little bit. We have this map right here. This is literally this map. You can take that whole level and you could migrate it into another UEFN project, right? So you can have multiples, right? So we can actually come up here where it says file. I can say new level, right? And I can create a new level, like a new blank level, say create, right? So now I'm in here. Now it's not saved in here yet. So let's come up here to the top left where it actually says save. And I say save, and it's gonna say what you want. We'll say extra map, right? For whatever it is. I'll go ahead and save that, right? So now I have two maps in here, this extra map, and I have the one that I was just working in. They both exist inside this project, okay? The problem is Fortnite will only play one of these, right? So this is where this game feature data comes in, right? So if I double click on this, it says, well, which one do you want your players to play? Well, it's that one, right? But I can choose which one I want later, like extra map there, boom, right? And now it'll actually play that one, right? And I have to do a whole push update and publish and make that whole thing happen, right? So be aware that you can have them in there, but you can only play, the players can only see one at a time, right? And then if you republish, then it overrides what was in the previous published version, right? So you could jump back and forth that way if you really wanted to. Now, the advantage of having a couple of different maps in here, because somebody's like, why would you have two of them in here anyways? If you're coming from Unreal, you get this. If you're coming from UEFN, you're probably like, why would you want that? So the reason that this can be really helpful is you can prototype stuff in this extra map and you can actually like push changes and play it and everything here. And then once you get it working, you can migrate that data back over to the map that the players are going to see inside of Fortnite. Totally doable, right? Just note that this extra map does take up memory. It doesn't take memory for the player because it doesn't get loaded for the player, but it does take extra memory inside of your project. And it can take a while to load if you need to for whatever reasons, right? So UEFN doesn't really have a way to like jump between maps right now. The closest you can do, and I think this might be where this question, the closest you can do to make that happen or to use something like data layers, that would allow you to like change between what's being shown on screen. Although even better, because we have entities, we can like load and unload entities, and you could totally change the map that way too. Because you could put an entire level in an entity and then swap them. I would be very cautious about doing that because it is a lot of loading and unloading. And if your players have a hitch, they're most likely not going to come back, right? Because they'll be like, why is it taking so long, right? Because it has to unload a bunch of stuff and reload a bunch of stuff. So be very aware that that is a thing, right? MacJack was the name of that. MAC, MacJack. Like she's, I can do it this way. Wait, hold on. That, actually, hold on. That, then that, MacJack, MACKJAC, MacJack is who I was talking about. Check out her stuff if you want to watch her build stuff inside of UEFN. She's a master. She's been doing Fortnite. She's a Fortnite OG, so she's awesome. Definitely go check out her stuff. Have you seen the right click in the outliner to put highlighted items into a folder in the outliner? Oh, well, let's create a folder. Let's give this a shot. Demo folder, right? All right, so if we grab that one and that one, right click on it. No. I know there's the make current folder. This is my favorite tool. I love this little thing in here. Release force load allows world partition systems to load and unload systems automatically. Right clicking inside of this program is always like, what did you do? Do these not? Why is it? Oh, it's unselecting these. Ooh, you'll have to show me how that one works. Send me a little video of that. That'd be kind of cool. Yep. Have a good one. Thanks for sticking around. Multiple maps in the same island. Yeah, you can't have multiple maps inside the same island. Sorry there. Do you have any suggestions on how to build a unique 1v1 and 2v2 map and stand out from the rest of the PvP maps? Here's my suggestion. Make it similar to everything else and then tweak one thing and see if your players stick around. If they don't stick around, then they don't want to play that version. We actually tried to create a really unique like box fight, right? And then found that the streamers and the people that were playing it, they're like, let's make these changes. And it eventually changed back to what everybody else has been playing. So it wasn't, I don't feel like, and this is my opinion, right? I don't feel like I don't feel like Fortnite is really good about being diverse just yet. It's growing, which is awesome. And I appreciate that. Like we're seeing more diverse maps, like the tycoon thing exploded, the only up thing exploded, the brain rot thing is currently exploding, right? Like, and the 1v1 and the 2v2s, like people jump into Fortnite with expectations. So if they're expecting a 1v1 or a 2v2, they're going to want that specific thing. So make it familiar and then tweak something once you have a player base that's playing it to see if they like it, or take a chance and just throw something totally new out there. Like if you've got a player following and you've got a nice base 1v1 game, maybe make a new map and then have your the map, what are those things called? The matchmaking, what is that? The match, I think you know what I'm talking about. My teeth. Right, the matchmaking portal, throw a matchmaking portal in there and be like, hey, if you like this, try this, right? So you have to get them interested in where they're at and then pull them over. It's a bit of a marketing trick. So that's my suggestion. Hopefully that helps. Me personally, I have a folder. If you want to have individual folders to do it easy before you start building, moving your maps around will take you forever. Yeah, I can definitely. So there's that. Yep. Take it easy, buddy. I already have like 8 separate islands. I'll leave them as is and get more organized the next time. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's all kinds of little things that can happen and be silly when you've got all kinds of bits and pieces. I'm going to go back to the other map. Speaking of, get rid of my, there we go. Sure, save selected. That's fine. There we go. Boop. And we're back on here. All right, so we got a few more moments. If there are any other questions, comments, concerns, or confusion you need cleared up so that you can continue to create, drop them in there and I will answer them in the next couple of bits and pieces. And of course, all the stuff that you can follow me on X. I drop all kinds of tips online so that people understand how they can push their skills even further. As an Unreal authorized instructor, I have all kinds of information about Unreal as well. So how this stuff inside of UEFN transfers into the big brother that is Unreal Engine. This is Unreal Engine, by the way. I don't want to like negate that. This really is Unreal Engine, UEFN. And to see how they're going to be converging within the next, couple of years. I think there was I think it was Tim. I could be wrong, so fact check me on this, right? I think while he was out in Seoul, it might have been before then, might have been in Japan. So fact check this. He was talking about how they're converging into Unreal 6 and when that's coming. He didn't give it a specific date, but he's definitely making mention that that's happening, which is great for us because as we learn more and more about verse and scene graph, we know that that's moving in there. So we have a chance to play with it, battle test it, and be ready for when all the companies are like, we need people that understand verse. Be like, I know how to understand verse and I can do that. And I've already published a couple of games because they're already out there and they've been battle tested. I've worked with revision control, like all of those skills transfer as we move over, right? We work with a bunch of students and teachers that work with just Minecraft and understanding like how to move an object, how to work with dialogue, how to do coding, how to work on a team, even though students hate working on teams, but that's what you do with games, right? You get a chance to transfer those skills up through Fortnite Creative into UEFN, into Unreal Engine. So you start, elementary, junior high, high school, then college level. All of that stuff is transferring further and further along, right? So if you're like, oh, I'm just using UEFN as just kind of playing with it, you could probably turn it into a career pretty easily. So kind of think about those bits and pieces. It's fantastic. Cool. All right, I'm going to check the questions all the way around one last time. Looks like we're good. Great advice. I think I focused too much on creating my dream game world instead of creating something that the Fortnite audience wants. Yeah, it's a thing. It's totally a thing. Like, so thank you everyone for joining in this new year. Excellent questions. This world, actually, I'll just bring it back up here, right? This world and this video will be available on our website, right? At our Cleverlike Creator School, the uafn.cleverlike. Come check it out if you want to play with it and see what we've been working with. These materials will obviously be inside of there for it, so you can get there and just kind of noodle with them and see what it is that you want to use them for. We encourage you, and tell your teachers if you want to see some of this stuff inside your classroom, tell them to come join us in these AMAs, as well as all of the curriculum that we're actually creating for you all so that you can play with this stuff, because we want to get this stuff out there. This stuff is growing. It's a lot of fun. And obviously you all know that. So cool. Thank you all, everybody for showing up. All the awesome names. I see all of you in there. I appreciate you. Yeah, you're all good. Cool. All right, y'all, take it easy, and I will catch you next month.